Have they made progress with the strike?
They're picketing right now, so I think it's the early stages. I would think it might take a little bit with this one.
When someone crosses the writer's strike, that's some dirty shit. Go across the picket line.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody doing that yet.
I think Ellen did. I had a buddy of mine who was writing on Ellen. Everybody kind of knows now.
Yeah.
What she's really all about. And that's another one of those. It's like, I'm so nice and I'm so sweet. Being behind.
With all the money Ellen DeGeneres has, you'd think she could afford better secrets. But no. Joe Rogan just cracked open her vault like it was his morning protein shake. What happens when Mr. Podcast Truth Serum takes aim at America's favorite daytime dancing queen? A truth bomb so juicy it might make your latte curdle. If you thought Ellen was all sunshine and throw pillows, think again. Joe's got receipts, and they didn't come with the applause of a studio audience.
Yeah, but
don't hate on the people who are doing it. That's why you're in that position.
Did you see what Ellen did? This is really, really kind of funny. She said, being stuck here in quarantine is like being in prison. I haven't changed my clothes in days and everyone's gay. It's funny.
It's funny.
It's funny. And she got attacked. Do you think this is prison? My grandmother died. You're living in a mansion. That kind of. But I think it's probably partly because that guy came out and said, hey, Ellen is mean. Post your stories about Ellen being mean.
Did you see the stories?
Ellen DeGeneres once told the world to be kind, only to go above and beyond to ensure no one would ever take that advice seriously again. Because nothing screams kindness like terrorizing interns, firing employees over chewing gum, and exuding the emotional warmth of a malfunctioning self-checkout machine.
Changes at the Ellen Show after multiple allegations that it was a toxic place to work. 3 top producers have now, quote, parted ways. But the horror stories keep coming. One guest on the show telling Inside Edition that she was told, whatever you do, don't be funnier than...
Now, like the universe's favorite chaotic uncle with a podcast, Joe Rogan has apparently decided he's done with Ellen's reign of daytime dictatorship. After all, there's only so long you can watch someone dance on TV before realizing it's just a distraction from the human rights violations happening in the green room. Let's be honest. Ellen's talk show wasn't a happy-go-lucky celebrity playground. It was a low-budget psychological thriller. The unspoken motto might as well have been, smile for the cameras or get emotionally waterboarded. Behind those twinkly blue eyes, a stress ball in the shape of a disgruntled assistant's crushed dreams.
Like a beautiful name, Isis. Ellen's rough.
Ellen is like an old...
But it's a rough one now.
It's a rough one now because she was running Abu Ghraib in the back of her show. That's a rough one. She's out there dancing with Kristen Bell, and in the back, there's people that are getting up on the rack like this.
It's so weird when you see, like, a lot of people saying that someone who seems so nice is not nice at all.
She doesn't seem nice, but that people have a very poor judge of character. She doesn't seem nice. It seems...
Joe Rogan, who usually reserves his podcast for MMA fighters, UFO enthusiasts, and the occasional psychedelic explorer, has now aimed his intellectual sniper scope at Ellen. And somehow, it's more satisfying than watching a flat earther try to explain gravity using a pancake.
Ellen situation.
Yeah.
You know, people found out that Ellen was mean, and all these people came out and said, Ellen's actually a bitch. And then we're like, whoa, I can't believe it. And she lost everything. She fell apart, disappeared, because people found out that this character that she was portraying in half an hour on a television show is not really who she was. My buddy Greg, who was one of her writers, was like, she's a piece of shit. And he was like, she's a...
Because here's the thing. Ellen wasn't just a bad boss. She was the final boss of passive-aggressive tyranny. Her workplace was so toxic it made a Chernobyl tour look like a wellness retreat. Joe, equipped with his UFC-honed nonsense detector, decided it was time to bring down the verbal guillotine. He took the Be Kind branding, wrapped it in a protein shake, and launched it into the sun. Ellen's public persona always felt like a warm hug from a hologram, comforting from afar, but up close, you're liable to short-circuit from the artificiality. Her kindness came with a time limit, a camera angle, and a no eye contact rule. And the stories, they poured out like kombucha at a Malibu drum circle. Employees were allegedly punished for speaking to her, with rules so strict that staring at a solar eclipse seemed like a safer option. One staffer claimed they were fired after taking medical leave, while another was warned of retaliation for reporting harassment. Because nothing screams fun-loving daytime queen like HR policies with a side of revenge.
Good morning to you, Hedda. What do you think of the news? Has this come as a shock?
Hi. No, not a shock at all. The viewers have spoken. Her ratings have been in the toilet for a long, long time now. Her show has not been fun. It has not been interesting. And she's not really, by the way, stepping down. The viewers fired her.
Meanwhile, Joe Rogan's over here letting people talk about DMT and elk meat for 3 hours without anyone getting fired for blinking too loud. The irony is incredible. Joe, who once interviewed a guy claiming Atlantis is buried under a Costco, somehow comes off as the emotionally grounded one in this comparison. Ellen's show was a masterclass in duality. Smiles up front, silent screams in the back. If Willy Wonka ran a chocolate factory doubling as a psychological torture chamber, it'd still be less confusing than Ellen's workplace vibe. And here comes Rogan, basically saying, enough of this talk show cosplay. Let's address how she turned a talk show into the Stanford prison experiment, but with better lighting. Rogan didn't even have to get fancy. All he had to do was point out the glaring contradiction. The woman who built her brand on niceness couldn't even be nice to the guy delivering her coffee. That's not just hypocrisy, it's Olympic-level self-sabotage in yoga pants. Ellen even had the nerve to close her final show with talk of gratitude and growth, like gaslighting her staff for 19 years qualifies as emotional development. Meanwhile, Rogan, dropping F-bombs and flexing biceps, still manages to come across as less toxic.
People that are like that all the time, it doesn't seem nice. It's very forced. And whatever, you're allowed to be a bitch, right? You're allowed to be a bitch. You're allowed to be nasty to people. You're accomplished. You're a comedian. You did the whole thing. What you're not allowed to do is have a Guantanamo Bay situation in the backstage of your show where everybody's walking around afraid for their life, and it's like Abu Ghraib where they're hooked up to wires and they
Dogs
have like,
around them.
yeah, she's got dogs and hoods. If an intern's late, they have a hood on. I don't support that.
She ended every show urging viewers to be kind to one another, which is almost cute when you realize it was more of a warning. Be kind, or I'll revoke your parking validation. Meanwhile, Joe's podcast might be a swirling vortex of bro science and conspiracy theories, but no one's ever said, don't look Joe in the eye or he'll eat your aura. That dubious honor belongs solely to Queen Ellen of Passive-Aggressive Island. Let's not forget her guests. A-listers got glitter-covered love fests and awkward dance-offs, but lesser nouns are crew members. Good luck. You might be playing Russian roulette with your lunch break or locked in a closet with a post-it saying, smile more. You know it's bad when Joe Rogan, who hosted a show where people ate bugs for cash, looks at your workplace and says, wow, that's harsh. And here's the twist. Ellen didn't just make mistakes, she curated them. Every allegation, testimony, and tear-streaked former employee told the same story. It wasn't a one-off, it was her whole brand.
In times, are like, they're gonna find the thing if you don't go away. You gotta have a good run, and then when you have a good run, you step back and you go, okay, I'm still gonna do my thing, but like, I'm not, I mean, there's only a few jobs in entertainment, right?
Right.
So I think a lot of the cancel culture shit is probably these motherfuckers want those jobs.
Ooh.
They're like, how long is this bitch gonna be dancing? I can dance with Hillary Clinton. I could do the Charleston with Henry Kissinger, or whatever the fuck she does out there.
The Charleston, is that what it is?
She goes out there to the Charleston. She's got war criminals. Her and Bush are jumping around. I mean,
That's right, she was buddies with Bush. That
yeah,
was like
she's
one
a
of the first-
CIA.
You could do your job perfectly, but breathe too loud near her salad. Fired. Ask for a day off? Fired. Have an aura she doesn't vibe with? Fired. It was like playing Minesweeper with your employment. Joe Rogan isn't exactly subtle, but even he calling out Ellen's nonsense is more than a red flag. It's a flashing neon billboard. From his soundproof podcast dome, Rogan's observations somehow hit harder than 19 seasons of fake daytime joy ever did. Remember Ellen's empathy comeback tour? That apology, delivered with the sincerity of a teenager caught vaping, flopped harder than a wet cardboard box. Meanwhile, Joe just laughed and kept the mic on because he doesn't need PR consultants or fake tearful rebrands. He's not pretending to be your friend, offering herbal tea, then calling security when you sneeze. He's a walking protein shake with a podcast and no filter. Ellen weaponized smiles and giveaways, but now her empire is unraveling like one of her pre-written jokes. Awkward, forced, and a little sad.
What do you think will happen to her now?
Well, I'd like to see her work on a farm where she can relate with all the animals and the pets and the dogs and the cows and the pigs, because she can relate to animals far more than she does with people. I was not able to have any connection with her, make any eye contact. And here's the thing, it's not just me or 3 of us. There were over 100 employees over the 19 years that walk away with this sickened feeling, about working there. As much as I loved my job as a booker and producer, I was almost relieved when I got fired, because it was like I want to take a shower. It was like a whole new dawn. So I don't feel that she has the trust anymore.
Joe Rogan pointed at the Emperor's new clothes and laughed. Beneath Ellen's vegan positivity and designer cardigans was a boss who made Gordon Ramsay look like Mr. Rogers. Ellen's empire didn't crumble from one scandal. It collapsed under the weight of her ego. When Joe Rogan, who narrates bear attacks like bedtime stories, calls you out for being aggressive, it's time to reevaluate your brand. The receipts were damning. Producers fostering harassment, resignations, and that infamous apology video that felt like Cruella de Vil's damage control attempt. Rogan didn't need theatrics. The facts screamed loud enough. Dozens of sobbing ex-employees? That's not a coincidence. It's a Yelp review with bonus trauma. Meanwhile, Ellen smiled through her teeth, danced with celebrities, and mentally shanked anyone asking for a raise. By the time guests looked less thrilled to be there and more like they were fulfilling court-ordered community service, the public started catching on.
Stephen Paddock. Do not ask me for sources, but Stephen Paddock.
Who's that?
He was the guy that shot up the Vegas concert. That was a very tragic thing. Listen to this. The only guy that saw Stephen Paddock live, his name is Jesus Campos. He was a guard at Mandalay Bay. He got interviewed nowhere else. You know where he got interviewed in the beginning?
Ellen. Really?
Weird. And then they went on, if you could find that clip, they went on with a weird diagram of how it happened, and Ellen's showing the people how it happened. Not like an emotional, how are you feeling, how are you holding up? It was a weird diagram of and then he went to the left and to the right. It was very strange to look. What the hell's going on? This is a daytime show.
Rogan could have ignored it, but he didn't. Even the king of carnivore diets has a limit for fake nice bosses running their shows like CIA black sites. Ellen's PR team was sweating through their fair trade hemmed shirts when Rogan weighed in, because Joe isn't easily canceled. He's not some influencer crumbling under scrutiny. He's the human equivalent of an unfiltered Reddit thread, and Ellen walked right into it. Of course, she can't respond. Admitting years of reported workplace cruelty isn't something you can gloss over with smiles and a game of what's in the box. Rogan didn't call her out for ratings. He doesn't need that. He has a $200 million Spotify deal and fans who'd listen to him interview a guy living in a van eating dirt. This was personal. Ellen wasn't just a bad boss. She was the final boss of hypocrisy. She built her empire on sunshine while bringing thunderstorms to the studio. Rogan just flipped the switch, exposing all the mold behind the paint.
She's got an antenna from someone's Buick that she's popped out and she's using it as a pointer.
But why the hell is this happening on a daytime show where this is weird?
Where'd she get that pointer?
I don't know. She stole it off an intern's car.
Why wouldn't you just use your finger? If that was you, if it was your show, the Tim Dillon show, wouldn't you just point?
This is also a giant screen behind her, so they could have just put it on that screen.
So, but she's using this thing. I find it very strange. I don't know.
If you're ever on a show handing out free sneakers but banning eye contact with the host, run. Even Rogan would tell you that. This isn't about disliking someone who smiles a lot. It's about wanting a boss who's more human being, less silent assassin. Ellen turned what should have been a warm daytime hug into a hostage negotiation. Rogan calling her out is the ultimate mic drop. Her downfall wasn't surprising. Whispers existed for years. But people wanted to believe in the magic. It's easier to ignore when your daytime queen is giving away puppies. Rogan's spotlight isn't the soft glow of a studio. It's a harsh floodlight exposing cracks in the foundation. Now, Ellen's show is canceled, her empire is tarnished, and her legacy boils down to smile, but don't expect me to care. Meanwhile, Rogan's podcast rolls on, proving that sometimes calling out a manufactured smile with brutal honesty is the real kind of kindness we need.